Why do so many students end up broke, stuck living paycheck to paycheck, and wondering why building wealth feels impossible? I've been there, scraping by on instant noodles and trying to figure out how to make my money stretch just one more week. But here's the good news. You don't need a massive salary or a lottery ticket to start building wealth fast. In this video, I'm going to break down the exact steps you can take as a student to go from constantly broke to setting up a financial foundation that grows with you. By the end, you'll know practical, actionable strategies to take control of your money and actually start building real wealth, even while you're still in school. So the first big problem most students face is living paycheck to paycheck, constantly feeling like there's never enough money left over at the end of the month. The issue isn't always how much they make, but rather how they manage it. Without a clear system, money slips away on small daily expenses like coffee, eating out, or spontaneous purchases that feel harmless in the moment but add up to hundreds over time. The real challenge here is that when you don't know where your money is going, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, you'll always feel like you're one step behind financially. This cycle becomes stressful and discouraging, leaving students believing they'll never get ahead until they graduate or land a high-paying job. The solution is simple, but not easy. It's about tracking every single dollar you spend. This isn't about cutting out all fun or living miserably. It's about awareness. Think of it like going to the gym. You don't just guess how much weight you lifted or how many calories you ate. You track it so you can measure progress. The same goes for money. By writing down every expense, no matter how small, you begin to see patterns. You'll realize that maybe those $5 coffees are costing $100 a month, or that late night food deliveries are eating up more of your budget than your textbooks. With this clarity, you're able to make intentional choices about what to cut back on and what truly matters. Budgeting isn't about restriction, it's about aligning your spending with your priorities and goals. Once you see where your money is actually going, you can start redirecting even small amounts into savings or investments, which compounds over time. Let me give you an example. Back in college, I was always frustrated that I never seemed to have money left at the end of the month. I thought I just wasn't making enough, but one day I decided to actually track my expenses for 30 days. I wrote down everything: snacks, gas, drinks, random Amazon buys. At the end of that month, I realized I had spent nearly $250 on things I didn't even remember enjoying. That was my wake-up call. From there, I cut down on impulse spending and created a simple spreadsheet to track categories: food, transportation, school, fun. I didn't stop going out or enjoying myself, but I did start setting limits. If I knew I had 100 set aside for fun, once that money was gone, it was gone. The crazy part is that within 2 months, I freed up almost $150 extra per month. Money I started putting into a high-yield savings account. Fast forward, and that small shift was the start of my financial discipline. It wasn't about being perfect, it was about being consistent and aware. That small action of tracking every dollar made me feel like I finally had control, and that's the first step toward building wealth fast as a student. The second challenge most students deal with is not having a budget that actually works for them. Many times, when students hear the word budget, they imagine a boring spreadsheet or a strict set of rules that take away all freedom. Because of that mindset, they either avoid budgeting altogether or they create one that's unrealistic. They'll say things like, "I'll only spend $50 this month on food," when in reality, that doesn't even cover a week of groceries. What happens then is they break their budget, feel guilty, and eventually give up on the whole process. The problem isn't that budgeting doesn't work. It's that the approach is flawed. A budget that isn't tailored to real life is like wearing shoes that don't fit, uncomfortable, restrictive, and eventually abandoned. And when you don't have a plan for your money, every unexpected expense throws you off track, leaving you scrambling and stressed. The solution is to create a budget that reflects how you actually live, not how you wish you lived. A realistic student budget doesn't mean cutting out every fun activity or living like a monk. It means balancing what you need with what you want. A good way to start is by dividing your income into categories using a simple system like the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your money goes to needs like rent, food, and transportation. 30% goes to wants like entertainment or eating out, and 20% goes to savings or paying down debt. If you're a student with a regular income, like from part-time jobs or side hustles, you can adjust the percentages but keep the structure. The point is to give every dollar a job before you spend it. That way, when money comes in, you already know where it's going instead of just guessing. The biggest benefit of this system is that it removes the guilt. If you've set aside $100 for going out, you can enjoy that money guilt-free because it's already part of the plan. Over time, this not only helps you control your spending, but also builds financial confidence because you know exactly where you stand. For example, when I was in school, I used to create super strict budgets that looked perfect on paper, but failed in reality. I'd write down that I'd only spend $30 a month on fun because I wanted to save more, but by the second week, I'd already blown through it and then I'd give up. One day, I decided to try something different. I tracked my average spending for a couple of months and realized I was consistently spending around $120 on fun, no matter how hard I tried to cut it lower. Instead of fighting that, I built it into my budget. I gave myself 120 for fun, but made sure to also set aside money for savings and essentials first. The difference was night and day. I didn't feel deprived anymore. I didn't feel like I was failing my own rules, and for the first time, my budget stuck. With consistency, I was able to cover all my bills, enjoy myself, and still put away money for the future. That taught me that the best budget is the one you can actually follow, not the one that looks good on paper but breaks in reality. A flexible, realistic budget gives you control without the pressure, and that's what makes it sustainable in the long run. One of the biggest financial traps students fall into is debt, and the scary part is that most don't even realize how damaging it can be until it's too late. The problem begins with credit cards, student loans, or even buy now, pay later services that seem harmless at first. A credit card company offers a free shirt or pizza to sign up, and suddenly you're handed access to hundreds or even thousands of dollars you don't actually have. It feels like free money, but what you don't see is the double-digit interest rates waiting for you if you don't pay it back in full. Add student loans on top of that, and you're carrying a weight that follows you for years, sometimes even decades. The issue isn't that debt exists. It can be useful when handled carefully. But the problem is most students don't fully understand the cost of borrowing. They swipe a card for a 20 meal, but with interest, that meal ends up costing 30 or more if it isn't paid off quickly. Over time, these small, careless habits turn into mountains of debt that choke future opportunities. Instead of using money to build wealth, you end up using future income to pay for past mistakes. And that is the exact opposite of financial freedom. The solution is to be intentional about avoiding high-interest debt from the very beginning and treating credit with respect. If you already have a credit card, the golden rule is to never carry a balance. That means only buying what you can pay off in full every single month. If you don't have the cash, you don't swipe the card. This one habit alone can save you thousands over time because it allows you to build credit responsibly without falling into the trap of paying interest. For student loans, the strategy is to borrow as little as possible and only what you truly need. Just because you're offered $10,000 doesn't mean you should take $10,000 if you can get by with $6,000. Every dollar borrowed is a dollar you'll eventually have to repay with interest, so minimizing that amount early on keeps the future burden lighter. Another key part of the solution is learning how interest actually works. Once you understand how compound interest works against you in debt, you start to see why borrowing is so dangerous. For example, carrying a $4,000 balance on a card with 20-cent interest and only making minimum payments could keep you in debt for years, costing you way more than the original $1,000. Avoiding this situation isn't about depriving yourself, it's about choosing smarter ways to spend and being aware of the true cost of borrowing. To put this into perspective, I'll share an example from a friend of mine in college. He signed up for his first credit card just to get the free pizza they were giving away at the booth on campus. At first, he thought he was being responsible, using it for small purchases like gas and snacks. But when money got tight, he started charging bigger expenses like books and nights out with friends. Within a year, he had racked up almost $3,000 in credit card debt. The minimum payments looked manageable, maybe $60 or $70 a month. But what he didn't realize was that most of that money was just going toward interest. His balance barely went down, and it became a cycle that stressed him out constantly. Eventually, he had to take on extra hours at work just to make progress paying it off, which left him with less time for studying and social life. On the other hand, another classmate of mine took a completely different approach. She also got a credit card but made it a strict rule to pay it off every month. She used it only for things she already had the cash for, like groceries, and treated it like a debit card. The result was she built a solid credit score by graduation, which helped her later when renting an apartment, all without ever paying a dime in interest. These two examples show the massive difference that one choice can make. It's not about avoiding credit entirely. It's about using it as a tool rather than letting it become a trap. By respecting credit, borrowing less, and focusing on paying balances in full, you set yourself up to avoid years of financial stress and instead create a strong foundation for wealth, building even while you're still a student. A common misconception students have is that saving and investing is something you start later in life when you have a real job and more money. The problem is this mindset delays the single most powerful wealth building tool you have: time. Students often think, what's the point of saving $20? It won't make a difference, so they put it off, spending what they have on short-term pleasures while telling themselves they'll get serious about money after graduation. The reality is that waiting even a few years can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in lost growth because of the way compounding works. When you ignore saving and investing early, you're not just losing the money itself, you're losing the years of growth that money could have earned for you. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to catch up later. And that's why so many people end up in their 30s and 40s wishing they had started sooner. The solution is to begin saving and investing with whatever amount you can, no matter how small it feels. Even if it's just $10 or $20 a week, consistency is what matters most. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow, and compounding takes care of the rest. Think of it this way: Investing $50 a month starting at 18 could turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars by retirement, while starting at 28 with the same $50 a month gives you significantly less because you've lost 10 years of growth. The idea is not about being perfect or putting away huge amounts. It's about building the habit and letting time work in your favor. For students, this can mean opening a high-yield savings account for short-term goals and a Roth IRA or a low-cost index fund for long-term investing. The key is automation. Set up automatic transfers so saving happens without you thinking about it. By making it automatic, you remove the temptation to spend the money first. Over time, even the smallest contributions add up, and you'll start to see your balance grow, which builds momentum and motivation to keep going. Let me give you an example. A classmate of mine in college decided to start investing with just $25 a month. Everyone laughed at him, saying, "What's that going to do?" But he ignored the noise and kept going, automating the contributions into a simple index fund. By the time he graduated 4 years later, he had a few $1,000s saved and invested. It wasn't life-changing money yet, but it was a foundation. More importantly, he had built the habit of consistently saving and investing, something that most students never do. Fast forward a decade, and because he kept increasing his contributions as he earned more, that small 25 habit had grown into tens of thousands of dollars, all because he started early and let compounding do its job. On the other hand, I knew another friend who told himself he'd wait until after graduation to get serious about money. He didn't save a dime in school, and by the time he finally started at 25, he had already lost years of growth. Even though he contributed more money each month than my other friend, he was always behind because he couldn't make up for the lost time. These two examples highlight why starting now matters so much. It's not about how much you start with, it's about giving your money time to grow. The habit you build as a student to save and invest even small amounts creates a snowball effect that can completely change your financial future. Another major problem students face is relying only on one source of income, usually a part-time job or allowance, which often isn't enough to cover both needs and wants. This creates constant financial stress and leaves no room for saving or investing. The bigger issue is that when you're limited to one stream of income, you're vulnerable. If your job cuts your hours, if your financial aid gets delayed, or if your parents can't support you as much as before, you're stuck. Many students accept this as the norm, believing they have to wait until after graduation to earn more, but this mindset keeps them broke and struggling. The truth is, relying on one paycheck isn't just risky, it's also limiting your potential. You may have untapped skills, time, or opportunities that could generate extra money right now, even as a student. By ignoring those possibilities, you're not just losing money today, you're losing valuable time that could be spent learning how to grow multiple streams of income. For the future, the solution is to start building income streams outside of your main source, no matter how small they seem at first. With the internet, opportunities are more accessible than ever. You can freelance, tutor, do digital work, sell products online, or even start a small side hustle from your dorm room. The beauty of these extra streams of income is that they not only bring in cash, but also teach you skills that compound over time. For example, freelancing can sharpen your communication and time management skills, while reselling products online can teach you about marketing and customer service. These skills become assets that increase your value in the job market later. It's not about quitting school or overworking yourself, it's about finding smart, flexible ways to earn more while still focusing on your studies. Even if you make an extra $100 a month, that's money you can save, invest, or use to reduce financial stress. Over time, that extra income grows and can be scaled into something much bigger. The key is to stop thinking that you're limited to just one paycheck and start seeing the opportunities around you. For example, I knew a student who was passionate about graphic design. At first, she thought it was just a hobby, but then she started offering her services on freelance websites. Even though she was only charging $20 for simple logo designs, within a few months she had built up a portfolio and was making a few $100s every month. That extra income allowed her to cover her personal expenses without worrying about money from her part-time job. Eventually, those freelancing skills landed her an internship with a design company, giving her both income and career experience before she even graduated. On the flip side, I knew another student who worked only one job at a local cafe and constantly complained about being broke. When his hours were cut, he had no backup and ended up borrowing money just to get by. That short-term mindset kept him trapped, while the student who started her side hustle created options and freedom for herself. The difference between the two wasn't talent or opportunity, it was the decision to look beyond just one source of income. By starting small, using available skills, and being consistent, you can build income streams that not only support you as a student, but also lay the groundwork for financial independence later in life. One of the most overlooked problems students face is their mindset about money. Many grow up surrounded by the belief that money is something you only figure out once you graduate, land a good job, and start earning a real salary. This short-term survival mentality keeps students focused only on getting through the week or the month, rather than building habits that lead to long-term wealth. The problem with this thinking is that it creates a cycle of financial stress and missed opportunities. If you see money only as something to spend quickly or just barely stretch to cover your expenses, you never give yourself the chance to learn how to make it grow. You might find yourself living hand to mouth, always reacting to financial problems instead of preventing them. Over time, this mindset becomes harder to break, and many people carry it into adulthood, wondering why they're still struggling even with a bigger paycheck. The truth is, wealth isn't built on how much you earn. It's built on how you think about money and the habits you develop early on. The solution is to shift from a short-term survival mindset to a long-term wealth building mindset, even as a student. This starts with small but intentional changes in how you view money. Instead of asking, "How can I get by this week?" start asking, "How can I make decisions today that set me up better for tomorrow?" That mental shift alone changes how you treat your income, savings, and opportunities. For example, instead of spending every dollar you earn, you set aside a portion to invest in your future, whether that's through savings, education, or skills that increase your value. Instead of seeing budgeting as restrictive, you see it as a tool that gives you freedom and control. Another part of this solution is surrounding yourself with the right information. Read books, watch videos, listen to podcasts that teach you how money works. By feeding your mind with financial knowledge, you start to think differently, and those thoughts influence your actions. When you adopt the mindset that every dollar has a purpose and that money is a tool for growth rather than just survival, you begin building habits that compound over time into wealth. Take an example of a student I knew who worked the same part-time job as everyone else but approached money completely differently. While his friends spent their paychecks on clothes, food, and weekends out, he treated every paycheck as an opportunity. He lived simply, budgeted carefully, and set aside money to invest in online courses that taught him coding. Within a year, he was freelancing and making double what his friends earned at their jobs. By graduation, he had both money saved and skills that gave him a head start in his career. His success wasn't because he earned more at the start, but because he shifted his mindset early and acted on it. On the other hand, another student in the same group always said he'd start saving once things got better. But things never really did. Every extra bit of money that came in was spent just as quickly because his mindset was stuck in short-term gratification. After graduation, even with a higher salary, he found himself in the same cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. The difference between the two students was not their jobs or even their intelligence. It was their mindset. By adopting a long-term view of money, the first student created opportunities, security, and growth, while the second remained stuck. This shows that changing how you think about money as a student isn't just about surviving now. It's about setting the foundation for financial freedom later. So to quickly recap, we started with the importance of tracking every dollar so you can finally break out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. Then we talked about creating a realistic budget that actually works for you instead of setting yourself up for failure. From there, we covered avoiding debt traps like credit cards and student loans that can hold you back for years, and why saving and investing, even with small amounts, gives you a huge advantage. We also looked at building extra income streams outside of your job or allowance, and finally, shifting your mindset from short-term survival to long-term wealth building. Now, if you found this valuable, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below sharing which one of these steps you're going to start working on today. I always love reading through your feedback, and it really helps this channel grow. And by the way, in my next video, I'm going to show you how to turn your regular paycheck, or even side hustle money, into a system that builds wealth automatically without overthinking it. You don't want to miss that, so hit the notification bell, and I'll see you there.